Hey, okay, my mic is on now. Thank you for that. You can tell I didn't test. Oh man, just been talking to myself for like 3 minutes. Well, what's new? We'll cut that out of the VOD. So as I was saying, this is the D&D Player's Handbook, and it's big. Keeps on going, keeps on going, keeps on going. So it's a little overwhelming. Well, there's a lot to you're suddenly presented with if you want to make a D&D character and get into D&D. And there's a whole bunch of guides out there. I was like, oh, why not talk about how I at least think about doing so? Because I'm definitely someone, if you're of a scale of how much you care about the numbers compared to how much the flavour in the story, I'm definitely far close to that second end of the scale. I think the rules and the numbers definitely support what you're doing with things. Right, well now that I can actually talk again, do want to note this lovely fancy music is 1 hour of ambient fantasy music, royalty-free music on YouTube. It comes up very easily if you search it. I'm going to like it. So I'm going to go through and make a character or two. Also, as I'm going to clip out the start of this out of the VOD, the important thing, and this preface, it's a very nice tone to it. But the end of it is saying, read the rules of the game and the story of its rules, but always remember that you are the one who brings them to life. They are nothing without the spark of life that you give them. And so as I think of that, it's really saying that the shared experience, the flavour, the enjoyment, the story of it is the nice things in D&D, not the rules. The rules are there to serve the story and the friendship, rather than the other way around. So, oh no, whenever I alt-tab you can... Maybe I should tweak that. Can I tweak that? Whenever I alt-tab to look into chat, it's going to show up on the thing, hey? It's funny. Oh well. That's how it is. Unless I... No, we won't do it live. I'm not that organised. So my plan is to go through and make a character. I've got a fill-outable PDF, which looks the same as the default player sheet, so I can type things in there and so on. And there's another page for things and throw in spells. We have that, but we're not going to. And so, I have decided that I didn't know. Hang on, there must be some better way of me having this set up. Hey Telly, how's it going? Slightly odd stream. Oh, how does that look? You're probably having the... You know, I don't need this text box if we're doing that. Otherwise you're going to be seeing it twice the whole time. I'm going to go through and make a D&D character just for like... some low-key streaming, and also hey, it's fun thinking about D&D and talking about D&D. I have decided I want to make bread. Oh, why does it look like that? Oh boy, what's up with this? It was working fine 2 moments ago. You saw me type hi there into it. Why is H a good letter and B is a bad letter? That was very interesting. What? Why does the B not work? It's just the bottom row of my keyboard. What's going on? You can see your own chat? Yeah, that's alright. That's okay. Hi, Telly. Yeah, exactly. Huh. What? Have I managed to break my... You know, I'm just going to close that. I'm going to reopen it and it'll all be fine, I'm sure. That's my thesis. We're not going to talk about that today on the stream. That'd be possibly an interesting stream, but not really what Twitch is for, I think. D&D. 5th edition. Character sheet for level. Okay. I don't know what I did there. So. And we'll save it so I don't actually do any mistakes. Yes, So I want to make... Dear me. End stream... Yeah, I know, right? I want to design this fighter called Brad the Bad. And the story I was quickly thinking of is... He was a bouncer for a shady or criminal organisation because he looks intimidating and big and mean. But he got kicked out because they kept on finding him in the local tea house. which ruined his reputation. So that's Brad's tragic backstory. On the light-hearted side of things, but that's what Brad's had to put up with in his life at least. So jump in there and actually start designing some things. So step-by-step character creation. Right. There are examples in the Player's Handbook. I'm going to basically walk it through. So race, class. So class is the important thing. Race is there as well. So I figured Brad is an elf, which goes in here. He's a big burly elf, and he's going to be a fighter, and he's going to be level 1. So, ticking things off. Got our level. Experience points. Well, that may or may not be in every campaign. Right now, we have none. Oh no, not again. It's when I change tab, isn't it? What's going on? This is such a weird bug. That still continues to be bizarre. I'm going to do what I did last time and close it and open it again. And we'll see what that does. Weird. Whoa. I even had the folder. I don't know why that's happening. Okay. It's very odd. Is one of my keys sticking? Odd. So there are sort of 6 attributes in D&D. There's strength, which is how like beefy you are. There's dexterity, which is how like dexterous, nimble, agile you are. Constitution measures how tough you are. So these are the 3 kind of physical ones. Important for everyone, you'll notice. Good advice. Intelligence, wisdom, and charisma are all mental attributes. How smart you are, for want of a better word. How wise, how aware you are, how good your insight is. And then lastly, how eloquent or how much leadership you have. The first thing we're going to do is to roll some dice, which is always the fun part in D&D. To that end, I really should have opened up a die roller, so let's jump to one of those we have somewhere around here. Ah, that's not very dramatic. This sounds very dramatic. Okay, this one sounds much more dramatic. Okay. Oh, that's much more like it. Okay, perfect. Even auto loads in the right number. Okay, let's keep chat tucked away in the corner there. So, for each of our 6 stats, we're going to have some starting numbers. Because we're a fighter, we're going to care a lot more about the physical ones than the mental ones. In particular, having high strength is good, having a high constitution is good. There's a whole bunch of different ways of generating your stats. The way I like to do it, which is one of the recommended ways in the book, but in your campaign you have to ask your DM what they want, is we'll roll 4d6 and we'll keep the highest 3. So here it would be, well, it's not a very good roll. So 10 would be the sum of our highest 3. And we'll do that 6 times and we'll arrange those as we want. So that's much better. Wow, that's a really good one. So that's 15. 10, 15, and so on and so on and so on. And imagine fun dice noises if you're 14. If it's hard, 14. $15. Wow. Why am I rolling so good for this joke character I'm doing for a naked tutorial? This is very sad. Wow. I'm rolling very well. That's okay. That's very lucky, but we'll go with it anyway. So from top to bottom, we have 16, 15, two 15, cheapers. Yeah, I hurled the crap out of this. Two 14s, 14s, and a 10. So if I take us back to Brad now, we can figure out how I want to put these stats into. As I said, he's a fighter. In fact, if I jump forward in the player's handbook to where it's talking about, what page is this? 13. Fighters. And they're, we'll get into the details soon, but basically, it'll say strength and dexterity is important, and then constitution. So we'll keep that in mind. And I also like to think about, what would the character be good at? As we said, Brad the Bad, he's big and strong. So he's probably got the biggest number in his strength. He's got to be tough, because if he's like kicking people out of bars or shady underground dwellings or whatever, he's got to be pretty tough. The other numbers, who's to say? He's obviously not very charismatic if he's getting fired, just for being in a tea house, so that's probably the lowest one there. And then it's what, 15 and two 14s, which, who's to say? Maybe he likes the finer things in life if he's enjoying tea, so we'll say he's quite wise. So something like this. So we've got our 6 numbers. Now the way D&D works is that these base numbers are each associated with a bonus or a penalty to any rolls. So when I'm making strength rolls, I'll have some bonus to them because I'm big and strong. Now there's a table of this somewhere in the book. Just maybe here. Yeah, here we go. Look at me jumping to the right place. So 10 is the average number, and as it says, is a normal human average. This is just for fun, Telly. This is utterly just for fun. Who knows? Maybe Brad the Bad will get to do something someday, but it's really just for fun. Unless my character in Fraser's campaign dies sometime soon, I guess. So 10 or 11 makes you average. Anything smaller than that makes you below average. Anything above that is good. So you can see that Brad is really strong. He's also good at lots of other things too, because we just rolled good. So the 16 is giving us a +3 to strength. The 14s and the 15s are giving us +2s. And then this 10 is a 0, which I'll put in as +0 just to make it obvious, I guess. I'll say that again because I keep on forgetting to do so. Right, so where are we up to? Rolled some dice. Now, next is how much health we have, known as hit points. Whoops. Space zooms out apparently. At first level. I know, right? I know, Regis, I'm like, how they roll so good. So it is. At first level, we get 1 hit dice, which will make sense very soon when I jump back to the fighter page. And then it says turn by your class, and we'll also get our constitution bonus. This is why constitution is so good, because every level we're getting extra health just because we're big and tough. So if we look at the fighter, we can see when it tells us that our hit points are 1d10. So we start with 10 hit points, and then 2 more for our constitution. So when I find the box, our maximum hit points are 12. And we'll assume he's not beaten up for the time being, so it's also 12. Temporary hit points we won't worry about, we don't have any of those. I always forget which way this goes. Something like that. Next up is what's known as proficiency. We'll just say, so different classes in D&D are good at different things. Fighters are good at like martial stuff, and he was about to, so we'll work out what other things he's good at later. Maybe he's good at like, yeah, I don't know. He knows people in the criminal underworld, say, maybe. This kind of a thing. But, so, things which you're good at, you easy to use those weapons, or spells, or skills. So he's big and tough and athletic. So Brad is going to be surprisingly good at like picking up boulders and like jumping over things and all this kind of stuff. As it notes here, it's determined by our class. So if we jump back to fighter, well, the first thing to note there is that our proficiency bonus is +2 at level 1, and that's, again, there's a table of this somewhere, which I forget, but +2. So we jump back to fighter. And there it is, +2. And we'll other class features we worry about later. But we are proficient in all armor and all shields. I don't know where we write that on this character sheet. No tools. We're proficient with simple weapons and martial weapons. I'm going to run out of space here, aren't I? Saving throws. We're good at strength and constitution. So if we're trying to like win an arm wrestle or like someone's throwing a boulder at us, those are maybe bad examples. So I think I can tick these boxes. Yeah, I can. Look at that. Dude. Would that be how it's pronounced? Dude. Maybe. Sounds like a bad Terminator accent. And then we get to choose 2 skills from acrobatics, animal handling, athletics, history, insight, intimidation, perception, and survival. So this is where the, like, you know, thinking about the character comes into play. What would Brad be good at? I think intimidation's pretty obvious if he's a bouncer. So we took off intimidation. Tick. And then what else? Athletics, I said he's big and strong, right? So he's probably athletics as well. So tick those off. Now we're going to fill in some numbers here at some point saying what our bonuses or penalties to different skills are. So suppose, for example, we were +5 to athletics. Whenever I'm asked to make an athletics roll by the DM, I'd roll my d20. Here's one I prepared earlier. Oh, how's this? And if I get, say, an 18, he's really into Tudor history. Yeah, okay. I'd have my athletics bonus, which is this 5, and we get a 23. And then it's either good enough or it's not good enough. Maybe we can pick up some Tudor history for ourselves later on. We'll have to see. Right, so these are more details about being a fighter, which we'll worry about in a second. For now, I'm really jumping around the place a little bit. I thought I had this better planned out. Or I thought the player's handbook had this better planned out. Okay, here we are, step 4. So, we want to describe him out as a person, a name, done. What does he look like and how he behaves in general terms? That's where this second sheet comes into play. I don't want to run JavaScript, honest. Okay, well let's run JavaScript then. Oh, appearance. I just want a picture. I wanted to put some text in there, honestly. Okay, well, let's see what this comes up with. Okay, I didn't really just want to make an actual meme. Okay, well, maybe this is, for want of anything better for now, maybe this is Brad. He's a lot hotter than I was really expecting. So this is Brad. Thank you, person whose artwork. Okay, good. The watermark made the save. I'm glad to see that. And that's just my downloads, right? Downloads. Boom. 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 Look, it's Brad. So, plus 0 charisma. Yeah, he must be very bad at talking. So he's very curt, I guess, right? Where do we actually describe him? Features and traits, backstory. He is very surly and unlikable. Unlikable but weirdly hot. No, and let's say caustic. Oh, well. But enjoys the finer things in life, i.e. tea and the Tudors. So the next thing to do is to talk about what's the alignment system in D&D. This is something I personally don't actually like that much, but it can be useful for thinking about how different characters are going to behave. So if I can find a nice picture of this, which isn't way too over the top, that'd be great. I was kind of just hoping for a big old... So it's commonly represented as a 3x3 grid, which looks something like this. Which looks something like... Let's just open the image in a new tab. Basically, D&D considers your alignment in two different axes. You have good versus evil, and you have law versus chaos. In early editions of the game, those both mattered a whole bunch, and were basically equally as important. As the editions have progressed, it's gotten less and less important, and in 5th edition I think it actually barely really matters at all, other than for like flavour and roleplay. But it can be fun to think about. So good and evil is obviously what it sounds like. You know, battles for the ages, Gandalf against Saruman, or the, you know, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. It's Star Wars, big stories. Law and chaos think about things differently. It's how they feel about rules and impositions. Do they like structure in their lives to help support things and hold them together, or do they think everyone should determine their own destiny, their own fate, and decide their own path? So in these two different axes, we end up with three options. This top row here is the good ones, and evil, or in the middle, if you're neutral, you're not particularly good or bad. On the left is law, on the right is chaos, and again, neutral in the middle, if you're not particularly good or bad. I hadn't thought about Brad's alignment, I'll be honest. I don't think he's good, because the whole working is about for criminal organisation. He's not like particularly evil, so he's probably neutral in that regards. He's obviously not lawful, so he's probably chaotic neutral, I think. So we go back to our Brad the Bad PDF. Alignment is chaotic neutral. Again, I don't think rules-wise this actually particularly matters much, but useful for like role-playing, thinking like, what would Brad do in this situation? And the answer is normally dislike authority. Not appreciate authority very much, is maybe what we're concluding. So the next part, and this is the fun thing, which I'm glad we've pointed out to me before, is what's known as ideals. In fact, which 5th edition of D&D, the edition of this rulebook, codifies really as bonds and flaws, which are like different... You know, I'll just show you, that's maybe the easiest way of doing it. So, this chapter has a whole bunch of info on how you can generate heights, weights, think about sexes and names, and, you know, what the... of course it is right here. So, code-neutral creatures follow their whims, holding their personal freedom above all else. So that's Brad. He's a bit of a, you know, lives life by his own. That's the Dwarvish alphabet for some reason. Languages we'll come back to. Wait, you still there, Telly? According to the D&D Player's Handbook, Artemis is an evil character. So, think about that. He began his career as a villain. Artemis is the name of Tallulah's cat. So that's pretty funny. Okay. So, okay, here we go, finally. Artemis the Tabaxi Warlock. Oh, is that what it said? Ah, that's fine. No, it's meant in real life. So, we get two little personality traits, sort of little details, like more, you know, nuance and like flavour to give our character. Helps set them apart from every character, rather than like, grr, I'm an angry guy. Which is maybe what Brad's problem is at the moment. Couple of personality traits. We also want some ideals. What's important to Brad? What does he believe in? What principles does he live his life around? We get some bonds, which along the lines of what connections does he have to the world. This is going to be always very setting specific, but in this case he obviously got a big connection to the criminal world if he used to work protecting people there. or as an enforcer there. It's maybe a bit tenuous now that he's been kind of booted out for not being scary or imposing enough, but he still knows folks, right? And then lastly, we'll talk about flaws, which is what weakness does he have? What's, in role-playing terms, what, you know, no one's perfect. What's Brad's problem? So first, you can think about this however you want to. But for now, I'm going to do they've got a bunch of recommended sort of backgrounds in the player's handbook, which gives you kind of ready-made options you can pick from and think through. So if we have a look, boy, that's a hell of a brawl. Brad's probably in here somewhere. You can't see him. Maybe that's Brad getting the crap decked out of him. He hasn't Acolyte. Work simple? No. There must be some kind of... Oh, okay, there we go. We found it. So, criminal. Brad's had a bit of a sordid past, right? Spent a lot of time among other criminals, yes. Still have contacts within the criminal underworld. Also, yes. So because of our background, how we grew up, we know a bit more about Brad, but we also are good at some things too. So remember, before being a fighter gave us some skill proficiencies. Because of our criminal upbringing, we're also good at deception and stealth. We're proficient in these. And what this means is that we get our proficiency bonus whenever we're rolling dice, 2 of those. So whenever we're doing stealth things or deception things, we get +2, which, you know, pluses are good. We're proficient with one type of gaming set, which is just the most delightfully most D&D thing ever. It's like, my character creation tells me that I'm proficient at playing chess. Is this going to come up in the campaign ever? No. So some type of gaming set. He probably plays cards almost easily. And thieves' tools. Boy, Brad the Bad's well named. Okay. Proficient in cards, thieves' tools. Which would be good if we wanting to, like, pick a lock, I suppose. Or if Brad's wanting to pick a lock. Not if we wanting to pick a lock. I'm not going to be picking any locks over here. Rules around tools? Yeah, they're not great. That's okay. We also know, I'll write this down now, some equipment. We get a crowbar. Oh boy. We get a crowbar, a set of dark common clothes, including a hood, and a belt pouch containing 15 gold. And that, I think, goes on this second page, right? Equipment. Treasure. Well, dear me. Equipment. 15 gold. Dark common clothes, including hood. We basically look like an extra out of Oblivion or Skyrim from the Thieves Guild. What else was mentioned in there? A crowbar. I don't know how I forgot the crowbar. That seems an important one. Crowbar! Exclamation mark. Ah, so now we can just go through here and follow through the rest of the criminal section, right? And it's got suggested personality traits. You don't have to use this, of course, but knowing that he's a criminal, maybe there's some suggestions we could use. So he was an enforcer, right? He was the muscle. So where does background go? Is it up here? It is. Is that going to fit? More or less. It shrinks it for me. Feature, criminal contact. Well, I don't know. We will write this down. So here's a hot tip, which is, I think, probably the biggest piece of advice I can give when designing characters. If there's stuff which you're going to want to refer back to the rulebook to, such as this criminal contact thing, which I at least always get our works, write down the page number. Page 129. So in our features, we can write down criminal contact. Page 129. And then whenever you want to look it up later, it's right there. I think everything else so far is fairly self-explanatory, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Where were we? Oh, I just grabbed the glow-up Brad off DeviantArt. Okay, dearie me. So, suggested characteristics. Personality traits. Now, where does this fit in on my character sheet? Is it here somewhere? It's not here, right? Oh, I've got these misordered. Okay. Oh, it is here. Okay. Was on the first page after all. I always have a plan for when things go wrong. Does that sound like Brad? Not particularly, right? Always calm. He might actually be quite a calm fellow, right? If he's an enforcer, he's seen a lot of things. If he's someone who enjoys tea, he's obviously fairly balanced and level. So let's say that. He's always calm. So Brad's sounding fairly... I know we said he's a bit... caustic was the word we used, didn't he? But he's fairly calm and stoic with it, I guess. Or at least he's level-headed. He's not like getting angry. He's just like mean. Well, not tone of voice. Uses mean words. I'm sure there's a better way of putting that. Ideal. So remember, this is us talking about what things Brad might stand for. And we know the main thing he has is that he's chaotic. So most of these aren't particularly applicable. But freedom. Chains are meant to be broken, as are those who would forge them. He is a big believer in personal freedom. That might be true. I mean, this is where we get to like think about it ourselves and be like, well, who do I think Brad is? Or people. He's loyal to his friends, not to any ideals. Is that true? He just got sold. He just got booted out by an purely workforce. So it might pick freedom a little bit. So let's go freedom. Brad's a big believer in freedom. I'm slightly paraphrasing, but that's okay. And bonds, remember, talking about how they might connect back to existing characters in the setting, which again, if this is an actual setting, you'd want to talk to your DM. But for now, we're just going to keep on playing around and making things up as we go along. So it's, well, you know what, let's roll a d6, because that's always fun. One of these tabs had dice in it, this one. 6, a good number. Someone he loved died because of a mistake I made. That will never happen again. Oh dear, I feel sorry for Brad now. Was that a bond? Well, okay, given they're dead, that's not much of a bond. I should use I. Write in first person. Not very sociable though, Brad isn't sounding. That's a terrible double negative. And lastly, flaws, which is the fun part. Let's see, whenever I see something valuable, I can't think about anything but how to steal it. When faced with a choice between my money and my friends, I usually choose the money. I don't know if he even has friends, honestly. Brad doesn't sound like a very likeable guy. There's a plan, I'll forget it. If I don't forget it, I'll ignore it. That might be quite fun, entertaining. I have a tell that reveals when I'm lying, but also could be quite entertaining. I turn tail and run when things look bad. Well, as the enforcer, it's probably not true. Or an innocent person's in prison for a crime I committed and I'm cool with that. Maybe not so much. Fun art. So let's say here's a tell that reveals when he's lying. So Brad's a really bad liar. Okay. So we're going through and kind of fleshed out how Brad is as a person, right? He's calm, but not very polite. He believes strongly in personal freedom. Everyone should do their own thing. But he's got a big old sense of guilt on his back. Proficient with deception. Oh no. He is proficient with deception. Oh no. Wait, don't just all criminal background? Didn't all criminals get that? It's probably okay. It might just be when he's literally lying, right? Tricking people is okay. Done with the backgrounds now? We are, right? Yeah, ignore equipment for now. So let's jump back to the step by step making a person. Yeah, what's up with that, Wizards of the Coast? Next. is talking about how putting in ability stores and how that's going to affect Brad. Unfortunately, I just rolled kind of good, so we don't have too much to go off here. As you noted, he's not very charming, Brad. He's not actually a very likable person, right? I mean, he's average, but he's like compared to everything else. He's strong, he's tough, he's kind of smart and weirdly wise. He's just not super likable, despite his pretty boy face. Next, I think we start getting to equipment and class-specific things, isn't it? Yeah. So before we do that, or as we do that, let's jump back to the fighter page. So, we are level 1. We have this +2 proficiency bonus. And we get 2 features. We get to choose a fighting style, and we get the second wind. I'll get into those in a moment, but first I'm going to finish finally filling out the skills section, now that we know all the things we're proficient in. So, if anything we're proficient in, so for any saving throw or for any skill, we have a bonus equal to the bonus of the associated attribute. So survival uses wisdom, so we have a +2 to survival checks. For anything we're proficient in, we also get our proficiency bonus, so another +2. So for stealth checks, it's dexterity, so 2 and 2 gives us +4. So if I just work my way down from the top now and fill all these out, +2, +2, I should have done the strength ones first. There aren't any skills that use strength, huh? Okay, well that is easy. So notice a lot of the skills are very based on your mental abilities, right? Because it's skills. Are you smart enough or wise enough or charming enough to be able to do this thing? So our wisdom is +2, so animal handling is +2. Our intelligence is +2, so weirdly our arcana is also +2. We have no bonus to charisma, but we do have this +2 proficiency bonus. And so on and so on. I mean, a lot of +2s in this column, aren't there? Can I just copy paste? I can just copy paste. So what, the way skill checks work in the game is that the DM might say, you might say, I want to try and vault over that wall, and the DM will say, okay, well make an acrobatics check to see if you can successfully vault over the wall. We then take our d20, we throw it, and we get, oh it was almost a 20. So close. Get a 3. We add our bonus. So 3 plus 2 for a total of 5. It's a pretty low number. So see what the DM says, but he probably says you trip and you face plant into the wall. Something like this. If we wanted to try and intimidate someone, I stare down the guard to make him talk. I still don't roll very well, but it'd be a 9 and plus. No, not that one. +2 from our deception, but no, from our intimidation. So we get a total of 11 on our deception roll. Oh, no, intimidation roll. Words are very hard. Oh no, I forgot that we were also an elf. Being an elf matters too. Ah, it's doing so well. So, tell me about elves. Slender and graceful. Well, we're kind of the exception because we were big and beefy, but that's okay. They live very old ages. Elf names. Well, we know we're called Brad. Maybe it's short for something. That's okay. The flavour of the race is often very setting dependent as I think about it. But the important thing is that being an elf gives us different traits and different modifiers, which I'd totally forgotten about. It's going to be a huge pain to fix now, but that's okay. The important thing is we get +2 to our dexterity. So rather than having a dexterity of 14, it's 16. Which, as it turns out, makes this number here one bigger. Instead of a +2 dexterity bonus, we have a +3 dexterity bonus. Which means that all these numbers I've just gone and filled in, I have to go and look over now, because I'm a genius. Okay, that wasn't so bad. Good, good, good. So elves reach adulthood at around 100 and live to be over 700 years old. Wow. I hadn't thought about how old Brad is, honestly. He looks kind of young. Let's say he's 120. He's an adult, but not by much, right? I guess that goes into this box here. Those are blue eyes. He got blush. It's fine. He's kind of tall, right? Long black hair, pale skin. If I'd not had Outgo, I'd have actually made more interesting decisions here rather than saying he's white and he's tall. But I apologise. There's just the art which came up first. Very sorry. Size is medium, which is basically how big we are. Some creatures like gnomes or halflings or fairies or whatever are smaller than medium. Some things like giants or trolls or ogres are bigger than medium. We're medium. It's just average, and that's fine. And it goes definitely on one of these pages, unless it doesn't. Maybe they just figure you kind of know how big you are. I don't actually see an option for this anywhere. That's fine. I don't know where it is. Speed, which is, again, how fast you move, which is important for combat-y things. We're moving at 30 feet per round. Next is, because we're an elf, we know things because we're an elf. We have dark vision, so we can kind of see in the dark a bit. This is not one of those rules which I'm very bad at remembering, so we'll note it down here. And we'll also write down the page number, which I should have looked at. Page 23. We're proficient in perception because we're an elf. So we can put this tick here, which means instead of +2, that's a +4. And so on. It's really just going through and filling all the things out. Fey Ancestry. We have advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and magic can't put us to sleep. Does this go in here? I guess this goes here. Advantage. And there we go. Well, the other weird thing, well, the other thing about being an elf in D&D land is we don't sleep properly. We just kind of meditate for 4 hours a day. Maybe this is where the tea and the tutors comes into it. I don't know. So this is page 23 still, because that's another one I always forget how it works. And then there's languages, which is not one of those D&D things which kind of matters, but is also just kind of a hassle. But nonetheless, there's different languages out there. We know Common and Elvish. Perhaps unsurprisingly. Basically everyone knows Common, hence the name. Elvish is, well, language of the elves. I don't know where it should be Elvish or Elven, but there you go. And the last thing about elves is that there's 3 different sub-races. Common and Common 2. Yeah, I mean basically, right? There are High Elves, there are Wood Elves, and there are Dark Elves. Also called Drow if you want to not be what sounds very racist. And in other settings there's also other sub-races and so on and so on. So High Elves have a keen mind and a mastery of basics of magic. That doesn't really sound like Brett, I'll be honest. Wood Elves have keen senses and intuition, and are fast. That could be, maybe that's Brett. Again, it's the kind of thing which should be setting dependent, unless you really care about getting some extra numbers in there. And then Drow come from like a subworld. The depths of the Underdark, so there you go. In the D&D, in at least the base D&D series. As notes doesn't even exist in all worlds, so we'll just be a Wood Elf because it's nice. So we have +1 to our wisdom score, which would not give us a plus. Son of a bitch. Okay. Brad is just stacked. Look at all these lovely numbers I keep on accidentally getting. So because our wisdom's 1 bigger, the modifier is instead of a +3, instead of a +2, which means again I get to go through and tweak all these numbers. So be careful, folks. Don't make all the various mistakes I've been doing. Remember that it's race and class, not just one of those two things. We're very good at looking at stuff, is what I'm seeing. +5 to perception's pretty nice. Okay. We have proficiency with the longsword, short sword, short bow, and longbow weapons. Conveniently, I don't need to write that down though, because as we're a fighter, we're already proficient with a whole bunch of weapons, which those fit under, so good news there. The fun thing about being Wood Elf is that we're really fast. Fleet of foot, because we're so nimble and agile. So instead of our base movement speed being 30, it's now 35, which, if you're using a grid, means one more square. If you're not using a grid, it doesn't matter quite so much, but we're slightly faster. And then Mask of the Wild is another one of these things which I'm going to note down. Basically, if there's some kind of natural phenomenon, we can attempt to hide, even if there's not really anything to hide in. But that's definitely one which is easy to forget, so Mask of the Wild, page 24. Mask of the Wild, page 24. Wow, has it really almost been an hour? Okay. Oops. That's fine. Okay, so now... Hey, look at us. We're filling out all the different boxes, right? So that thing left now, I think. Oh, wait, was this 3 pages the whole time? This was 3 pages the whole time. I could have put Brad's deets in. 1 second, folks. Do it. Let's just get this going. This is obviously his nickname. I'm guessing that's not the game name his parents gave. 120. 120. 6 foot, because I'm boring. Blue eyes. Pale skin. Let's say wild black here. Wait, I don't know. I can copy paste this. Okay, that's good. Now it's all in the same PDFs, isn't it? That's much nicer. Don't save that. Okay. We don't have to worry about spells on Brad because he's a fighter. Spells are complicated anyway, and the pain. So, right, finally, speaking of being a fighter, let's just make sure there's nothing else I've gotten. Just doubting myself now. Ability scores, describe him. Pro tip, never play a spellcaster. Yeah, no, I know, man. I know. That's great advice. Oh, boy. We get to see what equipment we are from being a fighter. So, we're a fighter. Now we get to just kind of look through what class features the fighters have. So we noted our saving throws and our proficiencies and weapons and so on. Now, starting equipment, we've got several choices. We can take chainmail, or leather, a longbow, and some arrows. So if we want to be an up-close type, or a more long-range type. Despite his agility, if he's like a brawler enforcery type Brad, he's obviously in your face, so chainmail makes a bit more sense, I think. So let's say we have some chainmail, which we can put down. I always forget where armor goes in this. Here. We'll come back to that later. Next is a weapon and a shield of some kind, or 2 weapons. If he's guarding a thing, he's not going to be hiding behind a shield, so he's got 2 different kinds of weapons. We can go through and look through the weapons at some point very soon, and we'll think about that. And then you can get a light crossbow and 20 bolts, or 2 hand axes. Yeah, we're going to take 2 hand axes, which we can hit people with, or you can throw at people, and lots of fun things. Then lastly, we get either a Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack. What are those? It doesn't say here. But let's jump this chapter 5. Here does talk about it. Oh, did my song? Did the music finish? Not quite. So the fighting section just kind of throws a bunch of different lists out. You assume he knows to jump forward here. So we're going to go forward a little bit. Let's see what chainmail gives us. So when we're wearing chainmail, I can see chain shirt. Oh, it said chain. Okay, it's fine. We're told that our armor class is 13 plus our dex modifier to maximum of 2. So that would give us 15, because ours is at least 2, I think. And what armor classes, yeah, there we go, plus 3 running allowed to use to it, is how hard you are to hit. So when someone's rolling to try and attack you, they make an attack roll, add some numbers, and then if that number's at least a 15, then Brad is going to get hit. If it's less than a 15, he blocks it or he dodges out the way or whatever. 15 is quite respectable, level 1. There's nothing wrong with that. We also have, I think it was, 2 hand axes and then 2 other martial weapons. We have a lot of weapons on us, but hey, what do you know? And then basically, because it's D&D, there's a huge number of different weapons with different numbers on them. I'm going to follow what it says in the book for here. I personally don't care what numbers are on a weapon, because if you care about what numbers on the weapon, you have to use a particular weapon, because the numbers are better. I'd much rather be like, hey, you can use a club, but give it the same numbers as a longsword, or whatever myself, personally. But for the purpose of keeping it simple, I'm just going to follow in the book. So we get to pick 2 of these martial melee weapons. So if we're big angry elf, let's grab us, say, a battle axe. And let's grab something else light, right? A scimitar. So are those identical? Not quite, actually. So a battle axe and a scimitar. And lastly, we were told we could pick either an explorer's kit or a dungeoneer's kit, which somewhere down here is going to tell us what those are. Yeah, here we go. Boy. So a dungeoneer's pack has a backpack, a crowbar, we could be double crowbar, a hammer, pitons, torches, tinderbox, 10 days of rations, and a water skin. Also 50 feet of hempen rope. It's very like, why do you care about most of these things? A lot of these things. The explorer's pack is a backpack, a bedroll, a mess kit, a tinderbox, 10 torches, 10 days of rations, and a water skin. And 50 feet of rope. Well, we don't need a crowbar, and we don't particularly need the climbing gear, I think. So let's just take the explorer's pack. It doesn't really matter. So that gives us a backpack, a blanket. I want to put this down here, I think. They don't give you a very big box putting your equipment on the default sheet, which has always confused me. You have this giant box for treasure, and then your equipment is like, yeah. Backpack, blanket. I don't even remember half of these. Wasn't a blanket. We don't have a blanket. Oh, that's very sad. Bedroll. It's going to be cold at night. I feel very sorry for Brad. Backpack. We have a bedroll. A mess kit, a tinderbox. I have no idea what a mess kit is, but we have one. 10 torches. Those are probably important enough to get your own list, actually. Oh, let's put it this way. And a water skin and 50 feet of hempen rope. Okay, that's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. At this point, I'm just looking around to see what box I haven't ticked out. So, the only real thing we have left to do now, in terms of character creation for Brad, is filling out his different attacks. The bad news is I picked us like a bazillion weapons, so he has a lot of them, but that's okay. So for each of our different weapons, we can look to see how much damage it is and what type it is, which again that really matters, but we should note it, and what other properties it might have. So our battle axe, I'm going to ignore versatile entirely because they gave me 3 lines of box, so ignore that. We do 1d8 slashing damage. 1d8. And it's done this again, I don't know why. See? You see? I type I have no... Okay, let's try it once more, reloading this, and see what... I don't know... I wonder if there's something weird with the PDF. I don't know if it's the PDF or my program doing this. See, it's remembering the text, and it's better this time. So 1d8 slashing. Slashy. 1d8 slash. 1d8, we'll just say it's 1d8, and we can always look it up if we need to. Now the good thing, or at least the way damage works in D&D, is for melee attacks, because we're big and strong, we can add our strength modifier to them. So it's not just 1d8 damage, it's 1d8 plus 3 damage as we're just bashing someone with our battle axe. The attack bonus is for melee, it's our strength modifier plus proficiency if we are proficient. And we are, because we're just proficient with weapon stuff. So we have a plus 5 to hit. We can then go ahead and look at our scimitar, which will be similar. Yeah. It's a terrible joke. Okay, so 1d6. So again, and 1d6 plus 3. So you can see that normally the battle axe is just better from a numbers point of view, which frustrates me about the way they've written down the book, where it's like, oh, this is my build, I should use this one weapon. But I'm like, oh, what do I want to use? A scimitar or a glaive or a guisarme or something? I don't know, don't be using just a dumb sword the whole time. However, following the rulebook. And then the last thing we have is a hand axe, which does 1d6 slashing. Oops. But the fun thing about the hand axe is that we can throw it. We can hit people with it, but we can also just throw it. Which I don't know if this PDF has enough info for, but we'll try it anyway. And again, it's very easy. 1d6 plus 3. And I'll put down 20. No, it doesn't give me enough boxes. Well, that's okay. Hand axe can be thrown. Range is 20/60. And what that means, I should cover what that means. So melee weapons, if you nick someone, you hit them. Easy. For ranged weapons, there's a few differences. For a start, rather than using your strength modifier, use your dexterity modifier. For Brad, it's actually really easy because they're the same number. So if we're thrown, we still have a plus 5 to hit, and we still do an extra 3 damage when we hit someone, so that's great. The other thing with ranged weapons is you have to consider their, I don't know the word, range, I guess. If someone's too far away, you're not going to hit them with it. So what this 20/60 means is, which is really important, I'll be honest, means that we can throw a hand axe at someone up to 20 feet away. Wow. Or, if they're up to 60 feet away, we can still throw it at them with a penalty, and we'll worry about that if we come to combat-y stuff. Right. Looking through these boxes, we've filled out wisdom. So hey, isn't that nice? The only thing we haven't filled out is this initiative box. Initiative, if you get into a combat, and D&D is very combat heavy, hence why all the rules and the numbers. Would you believe this is one of the lighter rules editions? I used to play 3.5, and my gosh, there was many rules. You know what? Let's see if I can find a 3.5 character sheet, because those things were amazing. D&D 3.5 character sheet. Well, if I put an E, it's not going to work very well. These things were a mission. So imagine nerdy soup. Yeah, look at this. Look at this, just a monstrosity. Well, so most of it's very similar. You can see, right? Still strength, dex, con, int, whiz, charisma. Yeah, your eyes hurt. Yeah. The main difference is A, layout, but also B, there's just like 40 skills. How many skills is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40, 1, 2, 3. 44 skills. Hey, I remember that year. Oh, that thing was a monstrosity. It was fun to tinker around with, but the just, what's the way to put it? If everyone just magically knew all the rules perfectly, I'm sure it'd be great, but I just found it slowed things down a lot more than 5th edition was, because there's so many more rules to worry about. Better or worse than Pathfinder? Ha. Similar, right? Because wasn't Pathfinder basically kind of refining 3.5 rather than simplifying it? Okay, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. So where were we? Initiative. It's how fast we act in combat. And because we don't have any complicated factors, so it's just purely our dexterity. Being more nimble makes you faster to act. And so with that, we've gone through, we finished up Brad the Bad. Now, Elf Fighter. Battle Axe. Oh, it gives me no space. Unfortunate. Okay. Well, just... I don't even remember the word I wanted. What was the term for the battle axe? Versatile. So I've been kind of skimping over the way combat works just to put some numbers down. So for now, let's just say the battle axe is also versatile, and so you can use it with a D10 die instead of a D8, which obviously gives you slightly more damage on average. So that's Brad, and it's been about an hour. Ooh. Okay, well I think there's kind of a lot of stuff going on there. So I might leave that at that. It's the first time I've streamed in months. And the first time I've streamed with any, like, energy in like half a year. So that might do us for now. But if this was fun, let me know. I thought if this is interesting or fun, I could do another one of these for like a spellcaster because they're more complicated. Or I could do like a little combat example tutorial thingy as well, just to talk through some combat and show you how that goes. Because it's the kind of thing where it's easy when you know it and it's mainly straightforward, but actually like understanding it's more complex. So I might say goodbye to Brad for now. And leave it all there. Any parting words? Oh yeah, one last thing, one fun thing I do want to think about. Where are we? Somewhere near the back of this book. I was skimming through this. Goodbye, Brad. Yeah, nice knowing him. The people who design D&D, when the rules don't get in the way, seem to have a lot of like obviously love for fantasy. So there's this delightful list. I don't know if any of you even know exists or looked at, talking about all these different fantasy literature which has helped inspire and gone into D&D. And so can I comment? How do I annotate this? There's some way to write on this with a pen. Perfect. So ones which I had heard of here, or at least names: Terry Brooks, big name. Edgar Rice Burroughs, may have heard of. He wrote yeah, it's just neat. I'm like, oh man, I should read a bunch of these someday. I hope the dog barking in the background isn't coming through, but what can you do? May have heard of this Tolkien fellow. Mistborn I've heard of. I haven't read it, but it's meant to be very good. This guy is like the big D&D writer. That's not the right way of putting it. In the 80s, he was... So 80s was a hot time for fantasy and science fiction, right? And he was writing stuff set in the D&D setting, like official D&D products. So his character, Drizzt Do'Urden, was like famous, for want of a better word. It's fun stuff to read. I got a whole bunch of the books for like $2 each at a book sale a few years ago. It's lovely. Patrick Rothfuss, may have heard of. Oh, my voice. I've just lost my voice. Wait. What's happening? Okay. I have some water. Is my voice back? Can I talk now? Can I talk now? I think I can talk now again. That was odd. That hasn't happened before. Terry Pratchett, George R. R. Martin, H.P. Lovecraft, who was an arsehole but whose books were good. If you haven't heard of them, I would strongly recommend Theft and the Grey Mouser, which are like I don't know how to describe them. Very fun. Brad is coming through. Yeah, it's my Brad character voice. A Wizard of Earthsea is superb. That's really, really, really good. I don't know how to describe why it's so good without just saying that it's good, but I enjoyed it very much. It's the least action-y fantasy story I've read, if that makes sense. It's not like fighting and dragons and fire, but it's also not like Pollitt. It's just really good. I don't know how to put it. What else do I hear? Jordan Robinson in The Wheel of Time, which Vicara, I believe, is quite familiar with. Conan the Cimmerian, this may be a fellow you all have heard of, commonly known as Conan the Barbarian. Read an anthology of that a few years ago. That's quite neat. And yeah, there's a lot of good fantasy out there, basically. Like, we know this isn't stuff they put in. I just realised this isn't things I put in for this edition. These are things. This is done by a list by Gary Gygax and some folks since, right? Because some of this wasn't published at the time. Conan the Barbarian was the inspiration behind it. The Book of Free. Oh, where was that? I skimmed over that one. Yeah, a lot of, like, lore isn't the word. Just good stories out there, which is, I think, really the inspiration for D&D as I see it. Alexander Lloyd. Book of Free, huh? I don't know it. I'll have to look that up. I should not say the annotation of my player's handbook. I'll scroll the page and be like, what was I doing? Okay, well, that's going to, I think, do the stream for now, because apparently I'm losing my voice, which is going to make further stuff challenging. But yeah, take care, everyone. I might do another one of these sometime. Who knows? I just like talking about D&D, I think. Okay, take care, everyone. See ya. Oh yeah, you can cunningly see behind the screen, the scenes for a hot minute.